Okay, so we have everybody? We're good? Okay, awesome. All right, good morning, everyone. I'm Attorney General Dave Sunday, and I want to thank you all for joining us today for a discussion that impacts every community all throughout Pennsylvania. And in fact, I would say it impacts nearly every household in every community throughout Pennsylvania. And what I'm talking about is social media, which, as we all know, is a primary mode of communication used by young people and many adults. But our focus today is on how social media affects and influences students. We know social media is a pervasive presence that really has taken the place of a phone call and many times in-person interactions. And I'm sure that everyone watching and listening has experienced social media and has an opinion about it. And before I go on here, I want to take a minute to tell you who is standing up here with me today. So we have Dr. Sarah George. Dr. Sarah, nice to see you. And you're Assistant Director at, where?
Berks IU 14.
At Berks IU 14, sorry. It's hard to read Brett's handwriting sometimes. At IU 14. And so we have two students with us as well today, and that's Rosalie and Gabby. Rosalie and Gabby, nice to see both of you. And you're both also with the student at Berks Catholic, correct?
Yes.
Wonderful to have you. And we also have with us our Office of Public Engagement Director, Michelle Nutter. Wonderful to see you as well. And a few of the students, well, the students will be speaking here shortly. So with that being said, I'm sure everyone watching and listening has experienced social media and has an opinion about it. But our discussion today will be an amplification of what our students think and feel about it, which is unbelievably important because when we're talking about policy and we're talking about decisions that we have to make that impact children's lives, it's critical to remember that we as adults don't always have all the answers, and it's so important for us to listen to the people that are actually being impacted on a daily basis, which is why we set out to do this. So we wanted to talk about how students use social media, what it means to them, how it shapes them and influences their decision-making, how it makes them smile, when it makes them laugh, when it makes them cry, when it makes them angry, and other issues as well, and when it makes them consider doing something out of character that all too often we see. I, along with my colleagues at the Office of Attorney General, have learned a lot in recent months about what causes these reactions through conversations with students throughout the entirety of the Commonwealth. I am beyond fortunate to be joined by some of those students today in a series of teen talks at locations in Southeast, South Central, and Northwestern Pennsylvania. We listened and learned from students who told us that social media is inescapable. It is a permanent fixture in their daily lives. They offered examples on when it is a good thing and when it is also a bad thing. And I feel strongly that we need to act accordingly in response. And that is what the teenTALK program was all about. At the end, when we completed having these conversations, we wanted to put together a product. An end product of that program is actually this report that I'm holding up right here. This report is an illustration of the conversations that we had with these teens and with recommendations for all kinds of different people, and we're going to go into that as well. This report essentially is a manual for what students, schools, families, community, and government leaders need to know and what needs to be done to improve online communications and interactions. So those interactions do not continue to cause feelings of pressure and anxiety, and in the worst cases, isolation, depression, and unfortunately, situations that can be worse. Let me be clear. This is absolutely not an indictment on social media. This report is our best effort to represent what the students told us. This was a learning endeavor on our part, which is absolutely crucial. I know that, I remember many years ago when I was their age, and I promise you that I always thought that I had the answers and adults wouldn't ask me. And so obviously now as we grow up and we get older, we have to recognize the same thing. Students told us all about the benefits of social media, how it can be a conduit for healthy connections and conversations within their social circles. We heard from students who feel more comfortable in online spaces versus face-to-face interactions. And we heard how social media can be a timely source for knowing about what is happening within their community, social events, school delays and closures, and alerts about scams and other safety precautions. All of those things are technology doing its best work. But it is known, I'll say that it is not a state secret that there is a darkness to social media as well. The Office of Attorney General is committed to exploring that darkness and the harm that it causes for Pennsylvanians. My office has been particularly active in learning about artificial intelligence and chatbot technology. We have taken action demanding more protections from the producers and vendors of these products. A coalition of 42 state attorneys general, 21 Republican and 21 Democrat, led by myself and the attorneys general of New Jersey, West Virginia, and Massachusetts, issued a letter to 13 AI companies demanding that they take action to ensure that their chatbots are not producing harmful outputs. These have resulted in productive discussions that we will be in a position to talk about in much greater detail in the near future. And based on what we heard from students, that action, that collaborative action with the AGs from across the country absolutely must and will continue. I could not be more proud to serve as Pennsylvania's Attorney General, but my most important job in this entire world is being a father to my son. The environment that these students must exist in is truly intolerable. Just listen to the words that these students use to describe what they experience on a daily basis. Bed rot, doom scrolling, brain fry. To hear these groups of students elaborate on those harms and really paint a picture of what it looks like to be all consumed by a digital arm that is constantly around them was alarming. I remember when I walked in for the first teenTALK session, I looked around to the room and I said to the students, all right, how many of you are on social media, in some form every day? Every hand goes up. Okay. How many of you are on social media 3 to 4 hours a day? Every hand went up. I said, okay, how many of you feel that in your personal experiences, that interaction in some way, shape, or form causes harm in your young life? Every hand went up. And that was the exact same through every single one of these talks. And it motivated us to take action. These stories that we heard at our teenTALKs have been used in ongoing discussions with social media companies because they provide real-world situations to our once anecdotal concerns. However, this is just the tip of the iceberg. Our report provides calls to action for students, parents, school administrators, and governmental leaders such as myself. And I always say this is very important. Technology and innovation are critical, amazing things for society. That being said, like any other tool, if used by the wrong people in the wrong way, they can be unbelievably damaging. And so we want to make sure that the guardrails are up before the crash happens, because you can't put them up after the harm has been done. So I'm joined today by student leaders, school administrators, because we want this report to be more than just words on a page. So at this point, I would like to introduce some of our students who we brought out here today, and I want to thank them because this is a very, very busy time of year for students. And they're both finishing 11th grade, right? Yes. Going into your senior year. And so I'm guessing there are things going on. Mm-hmm. Okay, and so it's an honor to have you here with us. And so I'm going to take, and I will first call up here, Rosalie. The mic is yours.
Hello, my name is Rosalie Perlman. I attended one of the Teen Talks. I was at the one in Berks County. And I have to say, I think it was really productive being able to talk about the dangers and the harms of social media as well as the positives, because there are positives. You know, there are like cute videos. I get a lot of videos of animals on my free page, but there's also harmful things, and it's kind of normalized on social media sometimes. And I think that can be really difficult because toxic communities can form, toxic words. People are braver behind a screen. So I think it's important to acknowledge the dangers of it as much as it is a tool, as well as with AI. AI is kind of like a yes man. It'll agree pretty much with whatever you say because it takes what it's receiving and uses that to make an answer. So it doesn't have the full perspective on things, and that can be very dangerous when trying to get advice from it, or when people develop like a parasocial relationship with AI rather than socializing with people their age. So I think like while these things are good and can be helpful for people, I think it's also dangerous, and it does need to be taken into account that these things are dangerous and not helpful. But I think overall, like being able to experience going to the Teen Talks and being able to collaborate with other students in my area and to hear so many of the thoughts that I have myself put into words and being able to explain that to someone in a position of power was very helpful, as I want to be like active in my community when it comes to advocating for mental health as something that's very important to me.
Great job, Rosalie. That was outstanding. Gabby?
Hi, I'm Gabby Fry. I also attended the Team Talk in Berks County, and I really thought it was helpful insight on really showing the true colors of the internet, because everyone truly has their own experience with it. Some people could have a good experience, some people could have a terrible experience, and it affects their lives so differently that the range is so hard to identify. And when you have different voices like that all in the same room with a position of power like the attorney, it's really important to voice all of our opinions and really shed light on the dangers of it, but also the effects that it could have positively on our lives. And I think that one of the recurring themes was that it could definitely be used more to impact our lives positively instead of negatively like it does. So I think the focus of shifting that energy from negative to positive was really like one of the recurring themes that came up in this Teen Talk. And I thought the experience was really well done. I think that it was really helpful to, once again, like share the flow of ideas with all the students, because everyone truly has their different opinions, and to create a community where it's acceptable to talk about all of those and just really create like a powerful statement with the opinions. I think it's very important to do, and I think a lot more should be done about it. And the dangers of social media should definitely be more widespread and talked about more, because it truly does impact like everybody in this room and everybody in America and even the worldwide. So it's really important to highlight those and to fix those problems.
So Gabby, that was outstanding. I'm going to give a small round of applause to both of you. You guys did a great job. You both are really good public speakers. If you want to be lawyers, reach out to us. Okay. And so, Doctor, I want to come on up. So I want to take a minute to say that. So my dad's a retired public school teacher.
Sure.
And he has opinions about things, as retired people do. And this is an issue that he talks to me about all the day. And all the time he reminds me about the impact on teachers in the classroom and what this is like for them, the challenges that are there, and just the way that it changes the learning environment, and it's so fast. And so I just want to thank you for all the work that you do, and thank all the teachers out there that I know are doing their best to navigate this unbelievably fast-moving technological world we live in. So
For sure.
Thank you.
Sure. Thank you. And thank you so much for having me today. So at the Berks County Intermediate Unit, we were
blessed to be able to host one of the teenTALK events and had the privilege of having 44 of our students from across the county attend the event. And the event truly was fantastic in the sense that we took students from across the entire county, all walks of life, all different social statuses, all different school buildings, put them together in a room, and a lot of times you never know how that's going to turn out, right? Sometimes kids don't talk. And during the teenTALK event, it was fantastic to see all of the students so actively engaged and participating and able to connect with one another about not only the positives of social media and what they had in common, but the challenges that they had in common, and to see that there are so many other students across the county that are dealing with the same things they are: cyberbullying, mental health concerns, self-esteem issues, all of those things that come with some more of that negative social media use. We are, in a spot where teen voice and youth voice is really so important, and we are so glad that our teens were able to have a voice in all of this. Teen voice is truly not just them giving their opinions, it's their lived experiences. We're asking the people who are living this currently, today, in the moment, how is this affecting you? What's happening in your life? And what can we do? They not only brought their challenges to the floor, but they brought solutions. And ensuring that we continue to have teen voice will not only bolster them in their own leadership skills, but allow us to solve the problems with people who are working through the problems currently. They are our future leaders. So allowing them and empowering them to speak about not only their challenges, but how can we fix it for them as the adults? How can we start that movement for them is really so important. I also wanted to talk just briefly about what schools and IUs can kind of continue to do to move forward in supporting our teens and our youth and ensuring teen voice. And that is just continue to be as supportive as you can and listen to what the teens are going through, what our youth are going through. Like I said before, they not only have challenges, but they have solutions. And if we're able to listen to their solutions, we can positively affect policy, procedure, legislator, all of those things that are coming through that can move forward in the schools and really bring change. Continue, please, to support your Avidium clubs, support your mental health clubs, support your tiered supports within the school system, and ensure that students feel that their voice is being heard and that there is a place for mental health concerns and that there is a place for them to speak openly about the challenges that they are going through. Because they can truly not just make change, but they can assist you in making the changes for your building, your area, your school district, your community. So, thank you.
Oh, that was wonderful. Thank you. Yes, thank you so much. So, on behalf of the students who were brave enough to be candid and honest about very personal parts of their lives and daily behaviors, I challenge everyone to listen to, in their words, and you did that. When I say everyone, who am I really speaking to? So there are categories of action points in this report. So the report you'll see is broken down. The report you'll see, which is right here, you'll see the report is broken down into different sections, and part of that includes action points for students, action points for schools, action points for parents, and legislative leaders. It also includes many samplings, to the best of our ability, of specific things that were said by the students during the Teen Talks. And so that's just a critical part of this. As I mentioned, the producers and manufacturers who are making huge profits from social media and other tech products, I encourage them all to read this over for recommendations for action as well. And I promise you that we are utilizing things that we learned during this process in our discussions with them in many different ways. And so I want to highlight just a few main points within each category that really stood out to me. And let me just remind everyone that these recommendations were built from experiences and needs articulated specifically by the students. So we're not up here claiming to have all the answers pulled from thin air. We really dug into what the students told us and specifically the changes that they wanted to see. So for students, we offer a challenge that they reassess the value of in-person interactions and real-world experiences as they are the most genuine. We are not telling students to delete their social media apps. We are suggesting that they consider curating what they see on their devices by disabling and blocking harmful spam content and set limits on how long they are online and stick to those limits. For parents, encourage your children to engage in those in-person experiences. Set an example. Look up from your own phone and talk to your kids about what they see online and listen to them. And at times, remember that you are their parents, and if their use of social media becomes unhealthy, intervene. For school leaders, continue to teach students about digital safety. Really, those lessons cannot start early enough. That is one thing that we heard, is that students feel that they needed to learn digital literacy earlier in their schooling. Here at the Office of Attorney General, our Office of Public Engagement offers a number of age-appropriate digital literacy presentations that are available to schools and community groups free of charge. Educate students on what is a credible source of information. Promote safe spaces for students experiencing mental health challenges. Make those spaces easily accessible. For government leaders, yes, it is a bit strange to be speaking to myself here, but we need to do everything we can to build up regulations and restrictions around harmful online content. To my friends in the legislature, let's keep looking at what laws are on the books regarding abusive and harmful behaviors online. I believe dealing with the new technologies that face us is the issue of our time. The advancement of technology and public safety cannot be mutually exclusive. As state policymakers, we have the responsibility to act. And that's why I am pleased that legislation like the Safe Chat legislation offered by Senator Pennycook and broader data privacy legislation offered by Representative Pielli are going through the legislative process now. Those are just two bipartisan examples of the work that's being done in this space. There are many others as well. My office has been an active partner in this legislative process, and we will continue to do so. The Office of Attorney General has a number of tools already to address these critical issues, and we are actively using them. Using existing resources and authority, I established a Technology and Privacy Protection Unit within the Office of Attorney General's Public Protection Division, which is leading all of our efforts in that space. I say again, that's the establishment of a Technology and Privacy Protection Unit. And that ties into our last intended audience, tech and social media companies. The onus upon you to look beyond financial profits and work with partners in the public sector to ensure new product rollouts are done safely and with user wellness at the forefront. True change cannot happen without your buy-in. The experiences and the fears of these students make it clear. We cannot wait until after the crash to put up the guardrail. Let me be clear. If social media companies will not protect their users, especially our children, from the harmful effects of their platforms, I will use every tool that I have to hold them accountable and to force those necessary changes. Working with my fellow attorneys general from all across the country, I am confident in our ability to effect change in this critical and rapidly evolving space. So on behalf of my office, I can say that dialogue has already started, and we do not intend to leave those conversations without meaningful results. So in closing, I want to close my comments by again applauding the students who participated in all these investigations, and in particular, the two that have joined us today. I appreciate you more than you possibly know. We realize it's not the easiest thing to sit across the table from an adult that you may not know or be familiar with and share personal feelings. So I thank you all for having the courage to do that and for being so honest. Thank you for making this a worthwhile endeavor. Social media, AI, and modern technology is not going anywhere. It's here to stay, and it will keep changing oftentimes by the day. So the future is now. So it is time for elected officials, government leaders, community leaders, school leaders, parents, and students themselves to keep up. This report is not in itself a new law, policy, or regulation, but it's information, valuable information, directly from the population we try the hardest every single day to protect, which is our duty. And those efforts will not stop. On behalf of my colleagues at the Office of Attorney General, we make that commitment to keep working. Thank you, and stay safe. If anyone has any brief questions, we'd be more than happy to take them if we can.
It sounds like in these conversations, an emphasis that social media has, good and bad, but definitely marching towards less time is going to be a good part of the solution. The report also talks about, though, that students are afraid of judgment. There are fears that come when you're encouraging those in-person connections, whether it's students or you. What does that look like to create those in-person opportunities, and how can we equip continuing generations to enter those?
So I appreciate that question, and one of the ways we framed it to the students was, you know, you're at the age you're at now, do you have younger brothers and sisters? I want you to think about that, and think about, with knowing what you know, what would you want done for them as they grow up in their lives? And that triggered responses, I mean, from everybody. And so so I share that with you because, number one of the biggest takeaways for me was an acknowledgement and understanding on the challenges that teens are facing. And part of that acknowledgement and understanding was that too much time is being spent on these devices. You know, I always say that whatever you say yes to means you say no to something else. And I shared that with the group, and you could just see people were just flabbergasted because they're like, yeah, that makes sense. We spent a lot of time doing this. I think that very simply what it comes down to is getting back to basics as a society, getting parents involved, empowering teachers to give them whatever those tools might be to be able to have that interaction with students. A conversation came up where a couple of the schools have on their own limited the use of cell phones in schools. Okay, and so I don't know if it's necessarily bell to bell, but they're out. They're off the mix. And so one of the very first things that a couple people said was, you know, I remember a young girl. She raised her hand and she's like, "Yeah," she's like, "God, I'm talking to so many more people now." And they said at first everybody was like really upset, but as the weeks went on, people started to get to know each other. They had conversations. And one of the teachers anecdotally said that he thought that the amount of books being removed from the library increased by over 40%. And so I think very simply, like any societal challenge or friction, you have to listen to the people that are affected. You have to listen to the other people that are affected that are in the schools. And we have to work with them to give them the tools to be able to get ahead of this. Yes?
So obviously with AI, we've seen it rapidly advance over the last few years. Social media is constantly changing. So how do you foresee the ability to keep up with what's changing and make sure that you're staying on top of what the kids are seeing online?
So I can say earlier I referenced the coalition of 21 Republican and 21 Democrat AGs that came together. Pennsylvania, West Virginia, New Jersey, and Massachusetts are leading that charge. So what we do, and this is typically how it works, so I'm co-chair of the National Consumer Protection Committee for the National Association of Attorneys General. And we work together almost daily on issues like this and many, many others. And so we have working groups that are created. We have people that are assigned to different companies. We have people that are engaged in investigations with the companies. We're in dialogue because a lot of the companies, I mean, they have made it clear that they want to remedy these issues. And so, you know, we are receiving from them the changes. We're testing them ourselves. And so this will literally be a new and ongoing process versus like we took care of this, we're going to go over here and think about something else for a couple of days. which goes back to the creation of the team that we put together in the Attorney General's office, whose sole focus is going to be to stay on top of these issues, collaborating with, sharing resources with our colleagues from around the country. And that is the most effective way to do it. Because like I said earlier, the goal, obviously, we will use whatever legal recourse we need to. The goal is to have a partner who's willing to change, that you can work with and keep going back to so that they will do it themselves, versus litigation. Now, I will say, obviously, litigation is a tool that at times will happen. But that is how we're facing this. We're viewing it as the new world, the new way of doing business, the new things we have to learn, and the new things that are impacting society around us. Thank you. All right. What? Oh, sorry.
Sorry. You have a couple of recommendations in here for harsher age verification requirements.
Okay.
And I know in other states that have enacted that, there are a couple of lawsuits trying to oppose those age verification requirements. How is your office trying to balance advocating for that while still keeping tech companies in the conversation to try and prevent those lawsuits?
I mean, I can tell you from experience that there are some tech companies that think that that's a good idea. There are some that don't think it's a good idea. At the end of the day, I know that our legislature, and the legislature here in Pennsylvania is working very, very hard on these issues, typically in a bipartisan way, that our goal is protect kids. And so with that in mind, the end goal is protect kids, that if we can bring the companies along and they can be a part of the solution, then that clearly is the best way to do it. But if they won't and they want to file lawsuits, then that's a process, that's what we're here for, and that's something we'll defend. You know, I made it very clear that any law passed by the legislature in Pennsylvania, signed into law by the governor, my office will defend. And that's the job of the Attorney General. Okay. Yeah.
How often are you hearing from students, or how much did it come up in the conversation as far as using AI to alter images, as we've seen in the Lancaster Country Day and some other significant cases here in Pennsylvania? Huge issue.
Huge issue. I mean, we've heard that not only in the different teen talks, but separate from the teen talks. We've been engaged in public events with parents and children that this happened to. It is a huge issue, and I will tell you that, you know, we live in this world where, like, when some of us were kids, if you did something, if you made a mistake or whatever, like, you could pretty much remedy that like in a day. In the world we live in, with the technology that people are using to notify other individuals, the harm lasts forever. And so the stakes are so much higher now on prohibiting and stopping that behavior before it even ever happens. And so the long and short of it is, this is a major, major issue. We take it extremely seriously. We have not too long ago enacted legislation in Pennsylvania giving my office the authority to prosecute individuals that use AI to create, morphing technology, to take a picture and morph it into something else and create child sex abuse material. We now prosecute those as felonies. We've prosecuted multiple of those cases. I think you're going to see a lot of action in this area, not just through prosecutions, but legislatively, because, you know, everybody's trying to figure out a way to protect these young people from having to you know, live that world as a victim. I mean, and they're victims. And I want to say loud and clear, like, we see them as victims. They've been victimized, and we need to do what we can to help them so it doesn't happen anymore. All right, awesome. Thank you, everyone. I appreciate it. Thank you for being here and covering this. Thank you to our wonderful speakers and to everyone that participated. And I hope that everybody has a great day. Awesome. Great job. How'd it feel?